Hey everybody, welcome to Kavanaugh's Corner. Here on the channel, if you're new here, I review 4K Ultra HD Blu-rays, standard Blu-rays, things like that. My specialty has really become 4K Ultra HD Blu-rays over the years. I talk about the picture quality, the audio quality, the special features, and just, my overall thoughts on the film itself. If you're a returning viewer, I thank you so very much for tuning in here. It really means a lot to me, especially if you are subscribed and you like my videos. I really do appreciate the support. Today on the channel, I have a brand new release. Actually, to be honest, this actually isn't out yet. I really lucked out with this. I was able to find this very early. And I did pay for this film. This was not one that was sent to me in any way. I bought this disc outright. And I'm really glad I picked this one up because to me, this is a film that I've always enjoyed. And it's a very overlooked film in a lot of different ways, and that is Outland. This is the all-new Arrow Video 4K, and it's an all-new 4K restoration from the original 35mm camera negative, and it is a substantial sci-fi film. It's basically High Noon in space with Sean Connery. It's also directed by Peter Hyams, or Peter Hyams. I can never remember how to pronounce that gentleman's name. I'm so sorry. But he is one of the most unsung directors, in my opinion, in the history of film. This guy has done so many great, really entertaining films. One of my favorites of his, or probably my favorite of all of his, is a movie called Narrow Margin, with the late, great Gene Hackman and Ann Archer. And that movie is actually a remake, but it's one of the few remakes that's so much better than the original. I love that movie. It's very Hitchcockian. The suspense in that movie is wild. The action is crazy. And it's just a very entertaining, kind of edge-of-your-seat thriller. And this one here is kind of no different. Sean Connery just gives such a command performance in this, and Peter Boyle also plays a really interesting character in this. And Peter Boyle was just a phenomenal actor as well. These guys really gave it their all in this movie. And I love the way this movie plays out. It's not extremely fast-paced, but it does have some extremely exciting moments. And honestly, the special effects for the time when this came out back in 1981, it was kind of cutting edge, honestly. Now you look at it and, it looks a little rough around the edges in certain parts, but it really is amazing looking. And this movie, to me, has a very heavy influence on it from Alien. And there are a lot of theories that this movie is related to Alien in some way. It's really not, but it really could fit in that universe with no problem. Another Peter Hyams film that I love is 2010, which is the sequel to 2001. And I hope that gets a 4K release at some point, because that's another really phenomenal film. And the look of that movie and the look of this one are also kind of identical. Peter Hyams was his own director of photography on almost all of his films. And even though Stephen Goldblatt was kind of, credited as the director of photography in this, it's arguable how much he did. But if you haven't seen this film and you love kind of gritty sci-fi movies, or just Sean Connery, honestly, it's worth the watch just on its own. But today, we're going to be talking about this new 4K release from Arrow Video here. We're going to talk about the picture quality, the audio quality, and the special features. Now, before I get into the review here, I do want to mention that my reviews here on the channel, they're all very subjective. And honestly, you may watch this movie and have a completely different opinion of it than me. Your system may vary wildly from what I watch these movies on. I watch these on a 77-inch OLED with a surround sound system connected to a receiver with tower speakers and stuff like that. So depending on what you have on your end, your experience may vary. And I'm just giving my opinion, so you may be a little more slightly educated when it comes to buying one of these. So with that being said, let's talk about the packaging here before we jump into the review. This actually has a dual cover. So this I have on the inside. This is actually the reverse cover. It's the original poster art for the film. And I'm really glad that they, renewed that for this. On the inside, there's a poster that has both versions of the artwork, and there's also a booklet, and it's a really nice booklet too. And this has a bunch of different articles about the film, some photography, some set photography, some behind-the-scenes stuff. Really, really nice stuff. I think they did a really good job with this. Now, it is just a one-disc set, as you can see here. So it's just the 4K. There is no Blu-ray. There is no digital copy, nothing like that. It's just one disc. Now, to get into the video quality here, this is, as I mentioned, an all-new 4K restoration. It's a 4K digital intermediate that was restored from the original 35mm camera negative, and it was done by Arrow Films. So big shout out to Arrow for taking the initiative and doing the new transfer on this. The video on this does feature Dolby Vision, and that is going to play a big part in this review. Now, one thing I do want to mention is this is the previous Blu-ray of it from Warner Brothers that I'm not sure is actually still in circulation right now, but this has been out for quite a long period of time. And comparing the two here, the new 4K has a big jump up in picture quality here. Now, the biggest jump here is with the colors. The Dolby Vision has done an incredible job in expanding the color spectrum of this film. It is absolutely vibrant now. The different shades of whites all throughout the space station, the mining colony of this film is so wide now. There's a lot of grays, there's a lot of whites. Sean Connery wears like this blue uniform basically all throughout the picture, and it just looks so wild now in comparison to the backdrops that you see in this film. Probably not an accident they chose that shade of blue. That uniform really jumps out at you now, and with the backdrop of all these grays and whites and steel type colors, it's really, really eye-popping. The movie as a whole is very dark. It's a very dark film. Now, the tone of it is also kind of dark, but what I mean is the photography of this is very, very dark. It's always been dark. But this new 4K compared to the old Blu-ray here, this new 4K is substantially darker. And that Dolby Vision HDR really helps out a lot with those darker scenes. The black levels on this disc are really extraordinary. This movie is so pitch black at times. There's actually a scene in this movie where Sean Connery is walking through a room and it is only lit by like a screen in the room, and the light just lights up just half of his face, and one half is in the light, very, very dim light, and the other half is in total darkness. And that is just such a stunning thing to see. And you can see just a little bit more than what you used to, but the black levels on this disc are very accurate. They're just very heavy. It's not a movie that I think is going to look good on a screen that cannot handle black levels well. I will say that. If you are watching this 4K on anything other than maybe like a really good OLED or a really, really good mini LED TV that can really bring out black levels properly, you're probably going to have a bad time with this disc. I'm just being honest here. However, if you do have a setup like that, this new 4K is going to look substantially better than any previous release that I've seen. Now, on the flip side of the black levels here, there are some really incredible highlights. There are a lot of scenes where single lights light up a room, like I mentioned with that scene with Connery's face kind of half lit. There's a lot of scenes where the helmets of the spacesuits of certain, miners working on Io They have these big bright lights in total darkness. There's another scene where Sean Connery has a flashlight in almost a pitch black room. And those scenes are wild looking now. Those lights, they arc, they have this like camera flare. They're just shot so incredibly well. But on this new 4K, you really get that brightness level now that was missing before. It's kind of a nice little touch they did here. The other thing I want to mention about the picture quality of this disc is the detail level on this is also super, super high. I noticed more labels on things in this film. Name tags, labels, keys on keyboards, all kinds of different things. Readouts on these, ancient 1981 computer screens. There's a lot of little details that I picked up on this 4K that I missed on this previous Blu-ray. And the Blu-ray that came out years ago, it was no slouch. It was a very, very good Blu-ray. But this new 4K now, it's a whole other ballgame. One other note that I wanted to mention here that, again, may aggravate some people is the fact that they, being Arrow Video, did basically no kind of film grain mitigation on this movie. And I will say, there are times in this new 4K disc where the film grain gets damn near hazy. It is a very, very grainy picture. And again, it has a lot to do with the different styles of special effects that were done in certain scenes. And at other times, it may just be the movie. It could just be the film stock that was used for this film. I don't have a solid answer for you here, but all I know is that this movie has always had a very gritty look to it. Even this Blu-ray here, again, very grainy, lots of film grain. Right from the start, there's a Lad Company, the tree logo that's at the beginning of this. It's a defunct company now, but that logo, it has like swarms of grain. It's instantly noticeable. There are quite a few moments like that throughout the movie, so if you do not like film grain in your movies, even though to me, I think it's phenomenal. I love when a movie is left alone. You can really get that filmic look. If you don't like that, you are going to hate this disc. You are going to absolutely hate it. It's a very grainy picture from, scene to scene. It even changes sometimes from scene to scene. Now, in terms of audio quality, this is where we also get into some interesting territory. This has an all-new DTS HD 5.1 audio track, but it also has the original stereo lossless. So it has a totally lossless stereo track, and I watched the movie actually with both. And I started the film watching it in 5.1, and I quickly noticed that DTS HD 5.1, that track was beyond quiet. And I mean to the point where I had to pump this thing up over 20 points on the surround sound system I have. I had to pump that thing up to a degree where I shouldn't kind of have to do it that loud. And I was very surprised at this because the DTS HD 5.1 from this older Blu-ray, ironically enough, did not have that issue. It was actually a very kind of leveled audio track. That was really surprising. I was not a fan of that audio track at all. Now, with that 5.1, you do get some ambient sounds, you get some surround effects that you don't get in the stereo. But I will say, when I changed to the stereo, everything changed for this movie. And even though it was only the front two speakers of my system, it just had so much more life going on in it. It was just beautiful. Voices were super, super clear and loud. The dialogue was much more audible in that audio track, the stereo track, I should say. And even sound effects were much punchier in that track. The music from Jerry Goldsmith sounds incredible. Now, it kind of doesn't really matter which one you go with, but for the stereo, that Jerry Goldsmith score was just unbelievable. I was in heaven with that audio track. So to me, again, the stereo was undoubtedly the way to go here. That 5.1 track, If it was leveled just a little bit better, I would say go with that. To me, it was just way too quiet. And again, even when it was pumped up over 20 points from where I usually have it, there were some moments that were still hard to make out. It was very surprising coming from Arrow Video. Now, as for the special features on this disc, this is where it got actually really interesting. There is a archive audio commentary that's actually from this Blu-ray with the director. There's another commentary that's new from a gentleman named Chris Alexander. And Chris is a film critic who kind of talks about the film all throughout. The best thing, though, on this disc, in my opinion, the best special feature is there is a 52-minute interview with director Peter Hyams. And boy, what a fabulous interview this was. Very rarely does he do stuff like this for his films. And so it was really nice to see him, even at an older age now, talking about his experiences through his career before he was a director all the way to now, and also talking about his experiences on Outland. There's one really great anecdote that he talks about where he mentions that even though he's never won an Oscar, been honored by the American Film Institute, won an Emmy or anything like that, he says that he does have the distinction of being the only director that has worked with 2 actors that have been found not guilty of murdering their wives, which I nearly peed my pants on that one. I never thought about that until I watched that, but he has actually worked with 2 actors that went to trial over the murder of their wives. So really interesting there. Another interview that's on here is with Stephen Goldblatt, who was the credited director of photography of this film. And that's about a 30-minute interview. And again, Goldblatt really does a great job of talking about his experiences on the film and, you know, filming with Peter Hyams. There's another interview that's about 35 minutes long with William Mesa, who is the visual effects supervisor of the film. And he talks about the Introvision special effects that were used on this movie, which was a lot of like projection work. He also talks about how certain shots were made in the film. It's really kind of outstanding that they put together all these new interviews. It's really impressive stuff, and all of them are very enlightening. On top of that, there's a 20-minute appreciation of the film by Josh Nelson. There is a 20-minute or 21-minute deconstruction of Peter Hyams' work, and he is described in that as an insider-outsider of Hollywood, which I thought was really interesting. There's also a teaser trailer, a theatrical trailer, and an image gallery. So really cool stuff there. The special features on this are truly outstanding. No pun intended there. They are absolutely amazing, and it really adds to the value of this disc in a big way. So what are my thoughts on Outland here? Honestly, you know, this is a movie that I already really enjoyed, but this new 4K does make it better in a lot of ways. Picture quality on it is outstanding, although I did mention about how dark it looks. Again, it's a very darkly shot film, so be warned of that, and the grain and everything, you know, buyer beware for that stuff. Audio on this, as I mentioned, the stereo track is a knockout beyond belief. The 5.1 I was very underwhelmed by, and the special features were a home run on a level that I have not seen in a while. This is just a knockout home release. To me, it's outstanding. I loved this release of Outland. As I mentioned, though, just be warned of a few little things that has its caveats, but overall, I think this is a great release of a phenomenal sci-fi film. But that's it for today for Kavanaugh's Corner. I want to say thank you so very much for coming back to the channel and making it all the way through this video. If you enjoyed this, definitely make sure to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you can see more stuff like this. If you want to pick up Outland on 4K here, I'll leave a link that goes to Amazon in the description below here. If you use that link, it does help me out a little bit here on the channel. Thank you so very much for watching again. I love you all. Please stay safe, keep collecting, and take it easy.